Welcome to another postpartum meal prep recipe. Today's recipe will be from this book. I think I showed it previously. It is called The First 40 Days, The Essential Art of Nourishing the New Mother by Heng Wu. Sorry if I mispronounced that name. Since it's out of a book, I won't show the full recipe. I'll just show you which one I'm making. The Hearty sausage stew, page 148. So I'll walk you through kind of the general steps and ingredients and let you watch the video or watch me make it. But because it's out of a print book, I don't think it's right or fair. Or actually, I think it's probably a copyright issue if I were to start showing you every page in the book. But these are the first kind of 6 ingredients that I will prep. So cutting up an onion, or I actually believe it might just be half an onion, tomatoes, red potatoes, and then tomato paste, garlic, and then some Parmesan. I believe mushrooms might be part of the recipe, but I really personally do not like mushrooms, so I will not be adding them in, but that probably adds a whole extra flavor and depth to the recipe for people that like mushrooms. So let's get to it. Alright, so the tomatoes, onion, potatoes are all chopped and ready. I mentioned before, or I showed before, we have tomato paste, garlic, and Parmesan. That's a little bit later on, so I'm just going to prep what I need now first, and then move on to these items in a little bit. So, wow, everything smells so good. I know the potatoes are raw, obviously, but the fresh tomatoes and the onions just smell really nice. So now I will get started with actually cooking. All right, so I just showed you all of the veggies were prepped. You see in the top right, the broth, I made that in a previous video, so we're using that for this recipe. So you can see in the pot, I have some fat melting. Just add a little pinch of salt, and then we will start with sauteing the onions. And the onions will cook for about 5 minutes, or really until they start getting like that nice caramelized texture. So the onions have been cooking for about 5 minutes, so now I'm going to add the tomatoes and potatoes. So the tomatoes and the potatoes are going to cook for about 3 minutes. I'll stir them a little bit, and then I will add in some of the other ingredients that I will prep in the meantime, so that when these are all ready, I can just throw in the other stuff and be good to go. I have this broth sitting on the side, so I'm gonna measure out the amount I need for this recipe so that I can just pour it right in once we're ready. Alrighty, so the potatoes and the tomatoes have been cooking for a little bit. Since I didn't add one of the ingredients, I just let them cook as long as if I had added that ingredient, just to make sure that everything is fully cooked and I'm not skipping like 10 minutes of the cooking time. So now I'm going to add broth, tomato paste, and a couple other things, and then let it keep cooking. Alright, so all of the additional ingredients are in here now. I will cover it with a lid and let it cook for quite a little while, and then later on we'll add some more things. It's called a Hearty sausage stew, so sausage will be going in towards the very end. So right now we're just going to let it simmer for a while. The stew has been cooking for quite some time. The tomatoes are starting to look all like soft, and just smells really good. So now I'm going to add in some sausage and some couscous. This is Moroccan. They're like little couscous. They're little pebbles. So I've never heard of couscous or seen it. I'm gonna add some of this and some Italian sausage in here, and then let it keep cooking for a little bit. Alright, the quinoa, or the couscous, and the sausage have been cooking for a little bit now. So the stew feels a lot more thick than it was before. So last step is to add some greens, wait for them to wilt, and then the stew will be done. I've added in the greens, which is the last ingredient, so now just need to wait until this wilts a little bit, since right now it's very much full volume spinach, and once it wilts it'll look more like it did before, just kind of soup with a little bit of greens in it. So I'll stir it a little bit, let it wilt, and then we will almost be done. And now that the greens are wilted, the stew is pretty much done. So thick and looks so delicious. So the only other thing that I'll probably show you is putting this into these quart-sized freezable meal prep type containers. When I made bone broth, I store it in this because it's freezable, it fits a lot, and it will be really helpful in the future. So once this cools off a little bit, don't want to burn myself or anything, once this cools off, I'll pour it into those containers. I believe this makes about 6 to 8 servings, so hopefully I can just portion out by servings, and then postpartum we can just know how much is a serving and have some delicious warm stew ready for us. Alright, so I let the soup cool off a little bit. It was in this pot earlier, and I was able to get, the recipe called for 6 to 8 servings, so I was able to fill up 6 of these containers, and these are the containers I talked about in a previous video. They're about a little bit less than a quart, so very good sized servings. I think they'll be good for us especially when I'm breastfeeding and probably hungry all the time. So yeah, these are our 6 servings of the soup. These will go directly in the freezer. I'll put little labels on them so I remember what it is, because I'll make more recipes, so I don't want to forget which is which. But yep, here they are.